Classification is defined as the act of segregating property into two or more classes for the application of different effective tax rates. Commercial and industrial properties were traditionally assessed at higher levels than residential properties, so they would shoulder more of the tax burden. Court cases in the 1960s and 1970s gave taxpayers remedies to address inequitable assessment practices by cities and towns. This led to greater enforcement of and compliance with the full and fair cash value assessment standard. In 1978, voters approved a constitutional amendment allowing property tax classification in order to enable cities and towns to maintain, within limits, their historical tax shares. Currently, the law allows communities to choose between using a single tax rate or multiple tax rates. Cities and towns annually decide the tax levy that each class of property will pay. This requires an open and annual decision-making process to choose which option and determine specific limits in shifting the tax burden. The law also defines what major property classes are and directs the DOR's Division of Local Services to set classification standards. Current law mandates that DOR review and certify local assessments and establish assessor qualifications in their required training. The DOR must certify that the Board of Assessors have attended mandatory training and have submitted evidence of completing this training to classify property. It's important that assessors be familiar with the property classification coding system developed by the Division of Local Services called the State Use Code. They need to recognize the coding system's patterns in order to decide how to code unique properties. Let's review what we have learned from this lesson. Results of court cases in the 1960s and 1970s led to greater enforcement of and compliance with the full and fair cash value assessment standard. In 1978, a constitutional amendment allowed property tax classification, enabling cities and towns to maintain, within limits, their historical tax shares. The law directs the Division of Local Services, or DLS, to set classification standards and review and certify local assessments. Department of Revenue establishes assessor qualifications and their required training. Assessors need to be familiar with the classification coding system known as the State Use Code.